A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning, Eswatini. My name is John Perez, and this is the live broadcast for the International Day for Safety and Health at Work 2021. This is an auspicious occasion for Eswatini because we are commemorating this day alongside multitudes of other countries internationally, in particular against a very, very tough and severe backdrop of COVID-19, which is why this year's celebrations are taking place under the theme anticipate, prepare, and respond to crisis. A crisis being the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit the world from the year 2020 in particular, with its severity taking its toll in the year 2021 and late December 2020. Stakeholders have come together in Matapa here in Eswatini to make sure we celebrate this day alongside, as I've already mentioned, the multitudes of other countries who have been hit hard and the impact of COVID-19 being severe in those countries. A call is being made by stakeholders to invest now in resilient occupational health systems, which is why I think debates or conversations or discussions that are going to be taking place in this place today are going to be focusing on how stakeholders are going to be pulling their resources, are pulling their effort in making sure or discussing how we need to invest in resilient occupational health systems. I like the theme personally because it speaks to everyone in terms of our outlook going forward with regards to how we need to prepare and anticipate and even respond to what may come our way in future crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit Eswatini and the world generally. With us here in the Matapa, we've got esteemed stakeholders coming from government. We do have the Minister of, the Acting Minister of Labor and Social Security in the country, Honorable Polile Dlamini Shakantu, who is the Acting Minister of Labor and Social Security, who assumed the position following the demise of incumbent Minister Makosi Vilagati, who also happened to be a victim of a COVID-19 pandemic. May his soul rest in peace. We also do have stakeholders from the ministry or senior government officials from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and we do have members of the tripartite being employer federations and unions, and we also have employer representatives and other stakeholders within the occupational health and safety industry. Ladies and gentlemen, before further ado, I will hand over to Pastor or Reverend Masilela, who is also going to happen to open this event for us in prayer, just so we start the event in a proper footing. Diligence, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be sanitizing the podium every time a new speaker comes to the podium.
Bingelele bazalwane ekuseni egameni lenkosi. Sibingelele induna, sibingelele bosihlalo be-portfolio committee, PSL Tigo, nathi sonke sithi sebendi namuhla. Njengebazalwane ke sinikete umsebenzi la wathiwa occupy till I come. And you need to occupy in a safe and a health environment. Can we pray? Babe, siyakubonga namhlanje kuseni, siyakubonga ukuthi usiphile lesipho sempilo, wasilondoloza thina njengebantwana bakho, salibona lolusuku, lusuku Nkosi lugujwa mhlaba wonke, lolubuke indzaba yekuphepha etindzaweni temsebenzi. Siyathandaza ke Nkosi ukuthi nathi sisalugubha usiphe Nkosi kubuka phambili, usiphe indlela yekubheka kahle, usiphe indlela yokuthi dingoti dinqiphe, banqiphe nalabo labayawuthola Nkosi dingoti emsebentini. Nanyalo ke Nkosi siyathandaza ukuthi wena njengaNkulunkulu ujinge usibusisele nalo lusuku lesi ngalo namhlala. Siyawuqaphelisisa Nkosi kukubonga sikubabate na Nkosi umholi waloluhlelo nathi Nkosi tisebenzi siyathandaza ukuthi yiba uNkulunkulu usendele umusa egameni lika Jesu Kristu inkosi. Amen.
You, Reverend Masilela, for this wonderful word of prayer. It had never been so important for us as a nation to be strong in prayer, such as a time as we are living in, because of the uncertainties that are prevailing because of COVID-19. We appreciate your coming forward, Reverend Masilela, to give us a word of prayer. Just so we move forward together in a proper perspective, I know some of us may not be part of the stakeholders or the industry, but what is happening here today, stakeholders are trying to bring to our attention as society, as stakeholders, the importance of making sure that we perceive the impact of COVID-19, in particular in the workplace, and how it is affecting our systems, our processes, our way of doing business, and to say what strategies can we come up with in terms of making sure we mitigate the challenges or mitigate the impact of COVID-19, which is why I will reinforce the theme that says resilience, investing in resilience, occupational health, infrastructure, which is what we are going to be doing. The Director General of the International Labour Organization worldwide, Guy Ryder, and a panel of global leaders and senior representatives from government, employers, and worker organizations are trying to provide a perspective and showcase how investing in occupational health and safety system will help improve infrastructure both at a national and global level. We are going to be giving you his speech in detail just so we are in context or in perspective with what other countries regionally and globally are doing, so we can move alongside what our counterparts internationally are doing.
Profound. For some workers, such as those in health and social care, the nature of their job puts them at greater risk. For all workers, the threat posed by COVID-19 extends beyond catching the virus itself. We have seen increases in work-related stress, violence and harassment. Some of the measures taken to curb the pandemic have created new risks, and there's been a rise in mental health and psychosocial issues, in ergonomic and chemical hazards, and in delays in treatment for other serious health conditions. From the start, governments, enterprises and workers reacted swiftly to the crisis, with measures to address workplace infection and other risks. International labour standards provided important guidance both on protecting workers and safeguarding decent work. And there could be no clearer demonstration of the importance for us all of a strong, resilient, occupational safety and health environment supported by multilateral cooperation. World Day for Safety and Health at Work on the 28th of April reminds us of why we must have strong occupational safety and health systems and why they must be properly integrated into national crisis responses. These systems have been the bedrock of our pandemic response. Investing in them will be essential if we are to be ready for future crises.
1-2. That was the Director General of the International Labour Organization, Guy Ryder, which is just sharing with us the thoughts from a broader perspective with regards to what the world is doing. We do have another video that tries to demonstrate the importance of accidents that take place in the workplace, and unfortunately that video is not going to be playing here, ladies and gentlemen, so we try and avoid the glitches, and we run our program as smoothly as possible. Before I ask the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, to come forward to make his opening remarks, and of course to introduce the Acting Minister of Labour and Social Security, I would want to introduce our panel to you because it is a little bit rude of me to present or to place people before your net to tell you who they are. We do have Ms. Penny Mukawa from the International Labour Organization. May you please raise your hand just so you indicate your presence. And then we also have Mr. Mangoba Zwane. Thank you, Mr. Mangoba. And we also have Mr. Mavela Sikwane from the Federation of Swaziland Business Community. Thank you, Mr. Sikwane. And then we also have Mr. Wilfred Mdluli from Business Eswatini. Thank you, Mr. Mdluli. And then we also have Mr. Mashumi Shonge from the Federation of Swaziland Trade Unions. And then we also have a representative from the Public Sector HIV and Coordination Committee. And then we also have Mr. Mamba from the University of Eswatini. This is our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I would urge you to pay particular attention to their presentation because they are presenting or making submissions on the basis of the sectors they come from. If it's employees, they will be making presentations in terms of the impact of COVID-19 within the employee perspective, and the Federation of Business Community as well will be making submissions. So at a later stage, we are going to be engaging with the panelists by form of asking questions so that at least we share some insight and we come out of this event as better people with regards to how we can move forward and be confident that indeed we are going to create a society or a workplace that is resilient regarding issues of crisis. Principal Secretary Mkhalipi, please come forward to introduce the Honorable Minister and to give us your opening remarks.
Siyabonga Program Director angatayile kushayela tandla manje ngiyethuka abantu bangishayela tandla ngoba singabe sekwendekene. Honorable Minister, members of our portfolio committees, Chairperson Babelutho Dlamini, Chairperson Mage Silva Mthethwa, I especially want to welcome you to this event, Honorable Minister. Angetike lapha kuto thula ene remarks and kuloko kwa minister lokho ngidafuna nje lapha ngicela minister ukuthi ete ngaphambili ato kunivusela bekunene ani tshele nembiko lafuna kunibikela wona ngalelanga lamhla ka28 April lekugubha umkhosi ukuthi sikhumbutane ukuthi emsebentini kufute ukuthi sendene kuze sihlale siphephile sijabule kuze ukuthi umnotho utawuchubeka ube muhle. Minister,
can you hear me from the audio?
Ushito lo la ngaphambili ukuthi kunabani la kulomhlangano wethu lamuhla lo. Kumcoka minister lokuthi sikuvedele isithombe nje esincane sokuthi la kulomhlangano wakho lokhona lamuhla ngaphandle kwalo lobamemile balingani bakho labachamuka eParliament. Kunalabamele tinhlangano tebaqashi. Kuna labamele tinhlangano tetisebenzi tinhlangano tebaqashi timbili even kuna Business Eswatini kuna Firstbig netinhlangano tetisebenzi timbili even kuna Thukhoswa kuna Feswathu totimbili letinhlangano leti timelelekile la ngekhathi emhlanganweni wakho minister. Lokho kuchaza kona ukuthi minister lonke live lalapha khona kunebaqashi khona lalapha khona kunetisebenzi khona bamelelekile kulomhlangano wakho minister. Uphindze kube nalabasuka ematiko lahlukene ahulumende ngokuthi sinemsebenzi lehlukene kunalabasuka etiko laka health kunalabasuka etiko laka fire kunalabasuka etiko laka agriculture kunalabasuka etiko laka housing kunalabasuka etiko laka public works ngekuhlukana nje kwamatiko lapho khona kunekusebenta khona lokubonakala ukuthi kungandeka kube bantu babe exposed to etingotini letitsite kuphindze lo minister kube nalabasuka euniversity Eswatini kuthi nabo babe khona la kuyaqala lokhu minister lokuthi sihlanganise silitiko ngokuhlukana kwetinhlangothi tekuphila nje kwethu even lokho kakhulu minister kwendele ukuthi kube bede lokusilela ngaphandle nalabacungulako bende ama research babe dudane nelitiko batokhona ukuthi basibikele lokuthi ngikuphi lapha afuna ukuthi sithinze khona singihulumende kuze ukuthi lo kwendako minister kube ne-impact sengigcina minister nanami nje ngiyadumisela lapha ukuthi kubahle bangibona la hotel minister ngigcoke bothayi vele ngibophe bahembe lamhlophe lapha kunje ya ngithi ngiyavela lapha uthi lo mina yathi ke emkhaliphi kwazi awuthola umsebenzi ngivele emkhathi emphefumulo wami ngiphila ngoba kuloko lesikwendile lokwendile minister wathi asibe nje lamuhla lokho kukhomba kona lokuthi sisesiphume nanathi minister le ku comfort zone yethu ngoba linengi lalabo esikhuluma nabo emhlanganweni babuka ngazuthi uhlelele nje lemahovisini kukhuluma ama policies kuphela kanti kufuneka ukuthi vele nanathi sisuka siphuma sibuyele lemuva njengoba sithuma minister ukuthi asesihambe sesive lokuthi le lapha khona kune bantu khona kunjani minister minister ngicela kukumema minister ukuthi uvele ngaphambili utothula leyo nkulumo yakho lotayithula kulolu suku lwalamuhla minister siyabonga minister
Angbonge PS Naguye Program Director Nginvusele nonke begnene in this beautiful day in Matapa Ngiyanvusela begnene Nibahle kakhulu nonke ngicela kutibika nje kubahlonishwa bo chairman bami bema portfolio uthi ngithengifaka lo makalaba bo chairman bami sengikhohliwe ukuthi kunepompom la sawukhanza uhambe emoyeni ngiyasho ngithi hayi labo makalaba vele ba gender insensitive we have to make a plan. I see there are a lot of ladies here to accommodate the different styles for ladies in the workplace. May I greet you all this morning. Chairperson of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security Portfolio Committee, Honorable Senator Sylvia Mtetwa, and the Honorable Ludfo Dlamini. We are very privileged to have you this morning. And all honorable members of both houses of Parliament who are present with us today, may I also greet you and welcome you. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Labour, ILO OSH Specialist Pretoria Office, Employers and Workers Federation representatives, our special panelists who are with us today for this event, representatives of the mine workers associations, members of Tripartite Advisory Technical Committee for Occupational Safety and Health, all government officials who are with us today, and all participants who are following this event live on television and also participants who are following us on all online platforms. We welcome you this morning, and a very good morning to all of you. Today, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini joins the entire world in celebrating the World Day for Safety and Health at Work. The main purpose of this celebration is to promote the prevention of occupational accidents and diseases in the world of work. It is an awareness-raising campaign intended to focus international attention on the magnitude of the problem and on how promoting and creating a safety and health environment culture at work can help reduce the number of work-related deaths, diseases, and injuries. According to the International Labour Organization estimates, every year, over 2.3 million women and men die at work from an occupational injury or disease. Over 350,000 deaths are due to fatal accidents, and almost 2 million deaths are due to fatal work-related diseases. In addition, over 313 million workers are involved in non-fatal occupational accidents, causing serious injuries and absence from work. The ILO also estimates that 160 million cases of non-fatal work-related diseases occur annually. These estimates imply that every day, approximately 6,400 people die from occupational accidents or diseases, and that 860,000 people are injured on the job. I note that Eswatini is not an exception to these global trends, as fatal accidents at workplaces and non-fatal ones are increasing each reporting period. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has to stop. Small economies like ours are disproportionately affected by the adverse effects of safety and health at the workplace, as it dissipates the already constrained skill base and productivity levels. Addressing issues of occupational safety and health promptly and decisively does not only save lives, but it also has a significant bearing on economic performance, in that it decreases insurance premiums and payouts, whilst also improving workers' performance, morale, and productivity, as well as reducing absenteeism. To us in the Kingdom of Eswatini, this year's Safety and Health at Work is a renewal of our commitment to this very important aspect of workspace governance. This is an opportunity for us to reflect on weaknesses and strengths, and a call to all our social partners and stakeholders to dig deeper in our comparative advantages and bring to the table innovative ideas to make the workplace safe, healthy, and exciting. It will be critical that we at government scale up our inspection and workplace accident reporting systems and deepen our research capacity on disease burden and exposure to health hazards at the different workspaces to inform investments in prevention and response systems. I believe that this occasion today will set the tone for such programs to be initiated for review in future World Occupational Safety and Health Day celebrations. I am aware that the ILO has supported the government of Eswatini in the preparation of an occupational safety and health work profile, which is a snapshot of how we stand as a country against OSH global standards. Looking at the profile, I note that there is still a lot that remains to be done, and it is for that reason that today, as part of this celebration, the ministry is relaunching the Tripartite Advisory Technical Committee on Occupational Safety and Health to, amongst other things, hasten facilitation of bringing Eswatini up to speed with global occupational safety and health standards. I am particularly impressed with the diverse skills of this team, and I have confidence that they will deliver on their mandate. Today, we are joined for the first time in these celebrations by the Eswatini Mine Workers Associations. These are current and ex-mine workers of South African mining companies. It is common knowledge that most workers of several mining establishments in South Africa contracted lung diseases. 2 specialized occupational health clinics were set up in the country to provide health support services to these workers to return when they return back home. A task team has been set up to make these occupational health clinics in Manzini, RFM, and Hlatikulu Hospital to be self-sustaining. The team is already on the ground, working around the clock to have the suspended services at these centers restored, and also look into possibilities of providing broader occupational health services to all workers in the country. Worker and employer federations are encouraged to make use of the services that will be provided at the centers, as these centers will be specializing in treating workplace health issues. Government will, in collaboration with partners, continue to explore possibilities of extending occupational health specialized services to other strategic partners of the country, other strategic parts of the country. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to turn to the COVID-19 pandemic and the intense impact this disease has had on nearly every aspect of the world. The pandemic is a global challenge for safety and health at work. Workers, business owners, customers, and all other people in the world of work have been at risk of infection, and some workplaces have become sources of outbreaks of the virus. Informal workers and formal enterprises have been particularly vulnerable during the crisis to occupational safety and health risks, as they lack sufficient appropriate protections, pushing them further deeper into poverty traps. Formal work environments, just like the informal ones, have also been affected by COVID-19 in a way that no other virus has ever had in recent times. The consequential effect of the crisis is a befitting theme for these times. Post today's event, I want to challenge the tripartites, which is government, employers, and workers, to have a serious dialogue on the establishment of a resilient occupational safety and health system for the country. That is a system that will be comprehensive and adaptive to all types of work. Ladies and gentlemen, with those remarks, it is now my pleasure to declare the 2021 Safety and Health at Work Day Eswatini chapter officially launched. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your remarks, some of which give direction to how the discussions in this event will pan out. In particular, we are going to be talking to issues of reporting systems because the environment or the work environment that prevails in the current moment because of COVID-19 is no longer the work environment that was there 10 years or 5 years ago. So how do we improve our reporting systems just to make sure that stakeholders, or in particular those responsible for taking action that will help minimize the impact of COVID-19 are aware, even in terms of mobilizing resources towards creating a resilient work environment. The Minister has already spoken to that issue as well. And also the Minister has spoken about the fact that there is going to be a launch, or the launch has already taken place. I am not sure, but I know it's going to take place today at the launch of the Tripartite Advisory Technical Committee for Occupational Health and Safety. And one of the things, as per the provisions of Section 19, subsection 2B, that allows the Minister to launch or to introduce or to formulate the Tripartite for Advisory Technical Committee for Occupational Health and Safety. The responsibilities there, as per the provisions of subsection 2B, is that the committee must coordinate legislation in occupational health and safety at a national level. The call for this committee to review and to formulate new policies and legislation has never been greater because of what COVID-19 has brought to our shores. In particular, you will also appreciate the fact that a lot of companies have had to introduce work from home policies, but are these accommodated in legislation and so many other things? And I know the panel that we have here is able to speak to some of those issues. One of the guests that I tried to introduce earlier when I introduced my panel was Munkiwa, Ms. Munkiwa, who is joining us via Zoom. He's making a presentation via the perspective or the position of an occupational health and safety perspective from the International Labour Organization. It's interesting how some of my colleagues have been asking me, what is this OSH thing that they are talking about, Mr. Pires? OSH, you know, and the Minister was talking about OSH, you know, and I think OSH is a technical term simply meaning occupational safety and health, so that at least we all appreciate and understand what the sort of OSH means. You know, we've got your COVID, you've got your sort of, you've got your OSH. OSH means occupational safety and health, just so it minimizes the stress of pronouncing every part of the word. We do have Ms. Munkiwa now, who is joining us via Zoom. A very good morning and a warm welcome to the gathering, Ms. Munkiwa.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning.
You are already live, and our audience, both at home and in the auditorium, is available to listen to your submissions. You may proceed.
My apologies, I'm not hearing people who are on the stage. May I proceed? Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Labour and Social Security, the esteemed Permanent Secretary, esteemed representatives of employers, FESBC and Business Eswatini, esteemed representatives of workers, Tukoswa and Feswatu, esteemed representatives of academia, UNISWA, the esteemed representatives of different government units, including the Public Sector HIV/AIDS Coordinating Committee, esteemed representatives of Sheikh Forum, Director of the Program, management and staff of the Ministry, distinguished guests and members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is my great honor to have this opportunity on behalf of the ILO to commemorate the World Day for Safety and Health with you under the theme Anticipate, Prepare and Respond to Crisis, Invest Now in Resilient OSH Systems. Director of the program, by mid-2020, over 2.7 billion workers representing around 81% of the world's workforce were already affected by partial and full lockdowns. While lockdowns were the most effective infection rate containing measures, they rapidly translated into threats and loss of livelihood for about 85% of Africa's employed population, which makes a living in the informal economy. Today, 2021, as we take stock of and relive the events and struggles of the past year and some months, it becomes evident that building resilience is the only route to fast and full recovery from current and future crises. This year's theme, Anticipate, Prepare and Respond to Crisis, Invest Now in Resilient OSH Systems, captures the global experiences and interpretations of the full year of some successful and some failing strategies to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. The ILO findings revealed that up to about 20 to 30% of new COVID-19 infections in some of the surveyed countries might be attributed to work exposure. Director of the program, the theme invites countries to examine the most critical elements of the national OSH systems that are articulated by Article 4 of Convention 187, one of 40 ILO instruments in occupational safety and health. These elements include the National OSH Regulatory Framework, the National OSH Institutional Frameworks, including the competent authorities, occupational health services, information advisory services and training on OSH, data collection and research on OSH, and strengthening of OSH management systems at enterprise levels to respond to OSH risks. Director of the program, allow me to briefly elaborate on the said elements, just to demonstrate the cost of erratic application of the OSH functions and attest to benefits of investing into the system approach. Sound and responsive national policies and legislations on labor and OSH plays a pivotal role in any country's OSH system. It is sad, however, to note that these usually lag decades behind the social, environmental, and technological changes, as well as other dynamics affecting the labor market. Such affairs deprives countries opportunities to constantly dialogue on emerging issues and proactively adapt to new contexts and emergencies. Director of the program, in practice, there are multiple authorities designated with OSH responsibilities in many countries. These play a major role in the promotion of occupational safety and health at national level, implementation of the national OSH policy, and enforcement of the legal provisions. And such roles require these bodies to be equipped, coordinated, and known to the public as credible sources, especially during the time of crisis. The importance of occupational health services is yet to be well grasped, especially in the developing economies. However, where they are applied, the functional occupational health services have enabled the tracking of confirmed and suspected cases, the tracing of contacts and possible contagions, profilings of exposures and risks, identifications of vulnerable groups of workers, as well as the relevant notifications to public health and social security authorities during the pandemic. Employers and workers in collective and individual capacities benefited from the training and advisory services on OSH in areas such as the risk assessment and control measures, teleworking and return to work procedures. While cooperation and collaboration opportunities were realized through this, there continues to be extreme pressure on the OSH authorities and bodies to produce and avail timely and up-to-date information in face of limited competence and research capacity. Director of the program, OSH data is central to the effective OSH systems. Collection and utilization of accurate data enable countries not only to ascertain the realities of OSH situations and disseminate up-to-date information, but also to assess the effectiveness of legal provisions and inform the development and updating of the responsive regulatory framework. The ILO notes with a growing concern the poor application and ratification the Protocol 155, the instruments providing for establishment of national systems for recording notifications of occupational accidents, dangerous commuting accidents, and suspected cases of occupational diseases. The ILO's guidelines on occupational safety and health management systems are next to real needs of enterprises. This reiterates the need for government
We do apologize for the slight glitch. We were connecting with Ms. Mukawa via Zoom, and unfortunately she was heading towards the end of her presentation as well when the internet line is, however, failing us. I do hope that you've captured the essence of what she was saying. Some of the things that she has already alluded to is the fact that according to the International Labour Organization, 20 to 30% of COVID-19 related cases were due to workplace exposure. What does it mean to us then as stakeholders when we've got such a huge number of the workforce exposed to COVID-19? Do we have the systems in place, or even the reporting systems in place, or the resilience to make sure that should we face a similar crisis in the future, we are able to mitigate that impact? But like I said earlier on, we do have an expert of panels here, a panel who is going to be able to help us to try and speak to those issues as well. One of the things she also spoke about, just to bring it to the attention of the floor and the panels as well, is the fact that we need to review our occupational health and safety system policies, which seem not to be aligned to the current work environment regarding to some of the threats that we are facing, especially mentioning the issue of COVID-19 as well. Following right now, because we are trying to make sure that our program doesn't exceed 2 hours as per the provisions of the COVID-19 guidelines. Mr. Mangoba Zwane, who is a Safety and Health Environment Quality Forum, is also available to give us a perspective from a health and safety perspective. Mr. Mangoba, please come forward, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, can I just greet you and the guests, and I will say just all protocol observed. My name is Mangoba Zwane. You'll be seeing some slides also playing on the side. I come from an organization called SHEC Forum. SHEC Forum means, the SHEC is an abbreviation to say Safety, Health, Environment, Risk and Quality Forum. Basically, it's all the aspects that are actually practicing in the space of health and safety, the actual inspectors in the country. It means I generally say all the companies, most of them, they are part of the SHEC Forum in the country. Let me just start by saying I'm here just to introduce a perspective on how we see these things on a daily basis. I'm not too old in the profession, I'm only over 15 years. but I've attended I have to lead investigation of over 62 fatal incidents in the country that are all work-related. And I was the lead investigator on all of them, so I can recall almost all the incidents that are happening. I would just take an example of saying, in the era of mosquito bites, which is now in the era of malaria, we say if one person passes on in the country, we get worried, we have to report in the international organizations. But let me tell you, in about 6 years, I did investigations of about 50 cases of fatal cases in the occupational health and safety space. Now, if 6 years, 50 people are gone, you can divide that and it will give you in terms of what's happening per year. Moving forward, let me just say we have done some few checks to see what is happening in the industry. Why are we having so much cases? We did a SNAP survey where we're trying to view why people are not complying, or why do we have so much fatalities in the workplace. We realized that compliance in the country, as we speak at the moment, is at a place where we call it's just about compliance to certain legislation in terms of tendering process. For an example, we will have, that's the study. It tells us that only 70% of the people in the country, they are not interested. They've got a counterproductive mentality. They are not interested in compliance to occupational health and safety standards. Only 20% are doing public compliance. In that space where I've circled, it actually tells us that those that are complying, it because it's a requirement for them to do business in a certain sector. For an example, in construction, for you to construct any project, they will say you must be registered with the construction council and you must have this in terms of compliance. So you find that people have to comply in that manner. But for you to get people to have a culture of occupational health and safety, you don't have to do it for compliance. It must be part of the people. If you make it for compliance, what happens is you find that they comply, but they don't know what they are doing. In a similar way, you'll hang the biggest standards on the walls, but you still have fatalities hitting you. I will pick one of the cases that I've checked, where we lost a manager of a company around Matsapo, of course, because it is within the industrial site. What we noted there, the manager used to go around telling employees to wear their PPE, must be always clean in the PPE. He was wearing his shorts, he was wearing his socks, he was wearing his boots. He was never wearing proper protective clothing. One day he was moving in between the 10, I would say, to the 1,000 tons of sugar pallets, just put up about 6 of them up. I was an inspector, I was the first inspector around the town there. I came to ask him, can we rearrange the bags? Don't put them as 6 bags going up. Can we just put 2, and then, or just 2 by 2, then you'll put the other 2 on top, so that you don't have such a high level of stacking. He told me to go off. I can't tell them as inspectors what to do. So I left the workplace. In about 20 minutes, I was called to go back to the same place. When I went back, I discovered that the manager was talking with had his whole body like hidden under a pile of sugar pallets, and he was dead. It was difficult for me to actually articulate that. I mentioned this before, but because it was about him complying to what we were saying and telling everyone to comply, but not the employees. So what happens is, it's an instruction to the employees that you don't apply it yourself. People don't listen to what you say, they listen to what you do. That is why I congratulate the minister for choosing to make us dress in this attire today, because people don't respond to what we say, they respond to what we do. We must lead by example. So this is what one of the reasons we have those cases. I will just want to conclude because I'm given 5 minutes here to finish everything in 5 minutes. Let me stick to that. Another challenge that we saw is lacking in the legislation update of the country is whenever we update the legislation, we're looking at South Africa as an example. South Africa has an occupational health and safety legislation of 1993 that is, as I speak, being updated, and it is, if I can calculate the number of sub-acts under it, or regulations under it, it's sitting at around 50 regulations. In the country, we've got very few regulations, we've got 1 act, and that has been here since 2001. It's newer, but does it have the impact that we're looking for? It will have it if we put together the other policies that need to be in place. So let me just conclude by saying, to manage my time. In the country, we are under COVID as we speak. The theme is talking about us being able to have systems that are resilient. In the country, we've got COVID as we speak. COVID-19 has shown us a different perspective. First of all, there's a policy that is speaking across SADC that is speaking about fatigue management. COVID has given us a site to protect our country citizens, but it made us to also check if we've done a correct investment to our health providers. That's the reason I'm saying is because when we talk about the standard of fatigue management, it tells that a normal person that is working across is supposed to work about 176 hours per month. That's for you to be able to rest and recover. But you find that when there are crises like this, people are pushed to work beyond 300 hours per month. And if you calculate that, it means the person is now, if you're supposed to retire at 60, if you're working 300 hours, it means you have to retire at 40. Because you've done the hours of work by counting the number of hours you spend at work. So you are done. So you find that people, when they retire at 60, they don't have the energy that we can draw the knowledge that we are looking for because they are drained, which is a perspective that we have to sit around as a country and look, do we have a legislation, do we have a provision, do we have some kind of a policy that regulates that? Don't push people to work overtime and pay them. Don't allow the overtime to exist if it is now over and is creeping on the fatigue issues, because people will want to do anything to get paid. But what about their fatigue? What about their recovery of their bodies? How about other diseases that can come in hand when they are actually tired and the immune system is down? So basically, I want to say this is our perspective as practitioners, that we have what it takes, but we need to change the way we apply it in the country. We have to improve our legislation. We have to have everyone being part of what we do to be hand in hand with us when we are trying to comply. I don't want to waste time. It's 5 minutes. I think I'm done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you once again, Mr. Zwane. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a time when Zwane made a submission to the effect that we need to congratulate the minister for ensuring that we lead by example, in particular because this event is broadcast live, and as stakeholders we need to demonstrate and to absorb the same principles that we are going to be sharing with our employees. In that regard, ladies and gentlemen, may we please clap hands for the minister for making sure that this starts here today. Siyabonga kakhulu, Honorable Minister, and I think Zwane became your spokesperson today when he said people don't do what you say, they do what you do. And a classic example of the case that he shared with us, although said, gives us an indication of what we need to do as custodians of implementing some of the policies regarding occupational health and safety measures within the workplace. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Zwane. And thank you so much once again for keeping time. We are trying our best to make sure that the program runs according to the program that we've been given here today. We do have the business community represented here today. The business community is a stakeholder that speaks to the needs of employees as well, because and employers as well. So much has happened in the workplace because of COVID-19, and even the injuries that are being highlighted here gives us an indication to the fact that some of our legislation, and I was going through the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 2001, if you look at some of the amendments or the reviews that we need to make with regards to making sure that we are aligned to the changes that have happened already, we are far behind as a country, as a classic example of what is given us in South Africa. legislations and the regulations of up to 50 regulations aligned to the legislation, which we don't have in the country. And I think we also need to be speaking to issues of creating new policies or policies that exist that speak to the current needs of our employers and our employees. Mr. Mavela Zwane, please come forward, sir, to make your submissions as well. And I do hope the floor is taking notes so that at least when the time comes, we are able to make meaningful engagement with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, Honorable Minister, Portfolio Committee members, and everyone who's here, peers. We really appreciate this day. May we give a round of applause to the Honorable Portfolio Committee members and the Minister who are here. Not just because they are here, but because they are also from business. They are part of the Federation of Eswatini Business Council, where I come from. My name is Mavela Zwane, rightfully introduced. Over 20 years now in the field of SHAC, occupational health and safety, dominated in the South African space, where we assist industries to comply with specifically issues of occupational health and safety. Minister, at this point in time, as employers, we see the issues of occupational health and safety as one of the means of doing business. We are saying this because when you look into the theme for today, where we say anticipate, prepare, respond to crisis, to us, when you have to anticipate, you have to go through a risk assessment process, which will give you your high, medium, and lows in terms of the risk exposure in the work environment. Now, if you have to prepare yourself, you need to consider the mitigation plans for those risks which have been identified. Can it be your highs and mediums? Not forgetting the lows because they can easily escalate. The Federation of Eswatini Business Community has taken an initiative to assist the different businesses which exist in the country to ensure that they take OHS issues as the means of doing business. In doing so, FESPIC is already in a transformation agenda, and I'm part of those heading the transformation. May Mabuza's soul rest in peace. We had HM Stationery, Mr. Mabuza, who passed away from an accident which you all know. And we want to uphold his legacy. The President, Tams DuPont, always tells us at Council to say, we need to leave it for our generations. Now, when you look into the space of the work environment, Minister must say, as a country, we're not doing well. It's easy to dress up like this. It's easy to have policies, legislation. I think the Principal Secretary has a long way to go in terms of getting this thing sorted out. We have a proper legal framework. Mangoba has just cited the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 1993. That's Act number 85 of South Africa. That Act has regulations. From the SHAC Forum, we initiated regulations for the country, but we don't get the joy we need from your office, unfortunately. We've invested a lot in terms of occupational health and safety issues. Unfortunately, we don't have the support at ministry level, I must say, peers. And it's very unfortunate. The figures which Mangoba is citing, they are from one organization, or they are from one town council or municipality, it's Matsapa. But when you look into the entire country, fatalities are happening. And you will see only your inspectors when the fatality occurs. As employers, we are sitting in a space where we need to continue with productivity, but we are really having our hands tied because of certain financial constraints. It's not easy to implement a fully fledged occupational health and safety management system. There are issues of funding which have to come into the space. And when you look into the issues of COVID-19, most of our members from the Federation have suffered a lot. We didn't budget for sanitizers. We didn't budget for closure during COVID-19. We didn't know this. And when it came up, what the Federation did, we quickly sat together under the leadership of the President and our CEO. May I ask her to stand, please? We have a CEO, Tanya Fife. Round of applause for her. Why did we appoint a CEO? We really want to transform the organization to represent employers. So all members of First Peak, Minister, from May 1, the Workers' Day, we have taken a decision to take away all these issues of occupational health and safety to be housed under that CEO's office. Meaning if you are a member in our federation, you don't have to worry much now about issues which are not related to your core business. You just focus on your core business and the federation makes sure that you comply. Now we need your support on that in the aspect of funding. ILO has opened their hands or their offices in terms of mobilizing funds for the sector. We're not happy, Minister, to have our members going to Geneva for negotiating some certain protocols. Protocols don't make sense if someone still dies in the workplace, unfortunately. So as a federation, we need to pledge our support, 100% support, to ensure that you have proper regulations, we have proper mechanism at national level. Can you give the minister a round of applause? I saw that no one heard what the minister said about the National Occupational Health and Safety Management System. That's a big stride, Minister, and I respect you for that. I will forever respect you. And the previous Honorable Minister, may his soul rest in peace as well. As a federation, we want to pledge our support, Minister, to support that initiative, because if we have that at national level, COVID-19 was not going to terrorize us this much, because we will have gone into the risk assessment process. There is power in risk assessment. I think the PS will understand it better, because when you do the risk assessment, you also look at issues. You anticipate the worst case scenario in your different processes. Now, if you have an employer coming through SIPA, because now the ministry has to work with other ministries. If SIPA is going out there for a roadshow to invite investors, the first stop must be, where is your risk assessment for your operation? We have Kellogg's now. Thank you for Kellogg's, they are already there. Just as an example, if you can ask, is there a risk assessment for their operations? I'm not sure what you will get, but I'm just citing them as a new investor, which we much appreciate. Now, what we're saying as a federation is we're ready to support, we're ready to assist. So for all industries now who are part of our space, who are subscribing to the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, we will be providing them with support. Key parameters, Minister, which talk to efficiencies on the occupational health and safety are as follows. At national level, there must be a clear outline of day-to-day operations of the OHS unit. Daily, hourly, minute PS. As a CEO of the ministry, you need to have an appreciation on hourly basis. What's happening? What's the statistics? What are the statistics in the country? The percentages which Mangoba cited indicate that very few organizations take OHS seriously. They do so because they have tender requirements which they have to fulfill, unfortunately. Then you ask yourself, where are the others? And most of those who do not take it seriously are the ones who have high volumes in terms of employment. You go to the textile sector, you go to the forestry sector, issues related to occupational health and safety there are not that much important in as far as the different operations are concerned. However, we are saying if we have a proper collaboration, thanks for that council, we needed it at most, if that council is strong enough, we need people in the council who will call it a spade, who will call a spade, because issues of life are critical. So with those few words, Minister, I want to also announce that the Federation has taken that integrated approach where we are saying, when you see a member of FESPIC, you will see compliance in OHS issues, because we take this theme for this year seriously, which says anticipate, prepare, respond to crisis, and invest in the resilient OSH systems. Thank you very much. You are welcome to register with FESPIC. If you haven't registered, contact that CEO of ours. She is there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Babe Mavela, for your submissions. I'm grateful for the fact that this event will allow those that are part of the occupational health and safety industry to respond, in particular the office of Babe Mkalipi. Babe Skwana is saying or has said that oftentimes they do not get the joy they need to get from his office. What are the challenges, Babe Mkalipi? And I'm grateful that you are here. You will be able to respond to some of those challenges, and they will be able to make submissions to the effect of how you can assist them where they have issues. Thank you so much once again. But if you noted or listened carefully to the minister's speech, he made emphasis to the fact that the time has come for stakeholders to work in collaboration and to cooperate with each other, because these are trying times and we cannot demonstrate the same attitude we've been demonstrating with regards to compliance and with regards to implementing some of the things that are provided for in the legislation and the policies that we have regarding issues of occupational health and safety. Like Mr. Mavela Skwane has already said, we do have a business community, Eswatini, business Eswatini, as part of the stakeholders. They also have some views with regards to how it is happening. We know a lot of industry have had to be shut down because of the effect of COVID-19. If we speak issues of resilience, if we speak issues of funding, like Mr. Skwane have already alluded to, how do we mobilize these resources to speak to our future needs with regards to how we can mitigate the impact of COVID-19 and other crises that are coming forward. One of those crises that the world is talking about is climate change. We never know what is going to come in the next 5, 10, or even 20 years. Are we ready? Are we preparing ourselves? Are we resilient enough to say employers need to shut down because the environment is not conducive enough for employers and employees to conduct business? Mr. Mdlulise, please come forward to make your submissions. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, all protocol observed. Wilfred Mdluli, representing business Eswatini in TQuash. In terms of working, I'm not working for business Eswatini. I work for YKK Southern Africa. Most of you will know it as YKK Zippers, one of the oldest companies here in Eswatini. Usually when they need experts in certain committees, they pull from their membership. So I represent them in issues of occupational health and safety. What we have noted is that we've had recent crises ongoing. Everyone is talking about COVID-19. And besides COVID-19, we recently in the country suffered natural disasters like tropical cyclone Eloise. And all of them have tested our response systems as industry. The economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic has been devastating and has profound effects on the revenues of our membership, that is of companies, either be it multinational enterprises, large enterprises, obviously also the SMEs were also quite affected by COVID-19, such that some of the enterprises face an existential threat. Inadequately protected workplaces can form COVID-19 clusters. So us as employers, we had to make sure that we prevent any outbreaks in our settings, because if we had any outbreaks in our settings, it would have led to having to close some of our factories for quite some period to enable us to be able to contain the spread of COVID-19 in our facilities. So we will note that also why OSH is important for business. It's because most of the primary responsibility for occupational health and safety in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 2001 is placed, the primary responsibility is placed on us as the employer. We must make sure that the employment setting is conducive for our employees. Research also shows that health and safety and well-being equals to good business and profitability. The negative effects of poor OSH management include costly early retirement, the loss of skilled staff, absenteeism, presenteeism, and high medical and insurance premiums. There are also costs resulting from losses in productivity and reduced output in our settings. I've already mentioned that the Occupational Health and Safety Act of number 9 of 2001 places the primary fiduciary responsibility of ensuring that all our workplaces are safe, to ensure that as far as reasonably practical, the workplaces, machinery, equipment and processes under our control are safe and without risk to the health of employees. They've also made sure that we have to ensure that we keep employees informed in terms of training, sharing information with regards to any ongoing challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic. So usually what happens when we have crisis like this, you will find that because there is decrease in public spending, when there's decrease in public spending, it means that there will be reduced profits for some companies. So that poses a challenge of how do you fund health and safety in a situation whereby now you have got reduced revenues. So those are some of the challenges that we have had to grapple with as employers, whilst at the same time, in order for us to keep our doors open, to be open to business, we had to incur this unbudgeted for extra expenditure that is related to the extra PPE that was required for COVID-19. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've already heard that about 30% of the cases are from industrial settings. So you can see that even though in Eswatini we did, was part of TCOSH, we asked the Minister of Health to just run a scenario for us to see what is the figures in terms of occupational health and safety, exposure of employees in the employment settings. And the scenario showed that about 10% of the cases were from industrial settings, with 89% of them, the employees had previous contact before the workplace setting with an infected case, and about 11% were exposed at the workplace. So indeed, there could be a exposure in the workplace. So it was very important that we follow all the public health guidelines. Sometimes you will find that when we follow all the public health guidelines, in some of the workplaces it becomes unworkable, because you'll find that, for example, if in a textile setting, you'll find that pre-COVID-19, the working arrangement was such that you are close to each other because you have to move the production in a line. So now in the COVID-19 situation, you have to eliminate some lines, which now your production might take longer, and you might not be able to meet your commitments to customers in good time. So as employers at the enterprise level, we have followed all the COVID-19 protocols as government, the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, of ensuring social distancing. We reviewed our policies and procedures to safeguard our businesses for the future. So we have put in place business continuity systems to make sure that we, in any other crisis, because it is projected that we will have in future other epidemics. So this is the time to take stock, and the lessons learned will make us better prepared in the future. Good safety leadership is important to communicate changes and motivate employees to comply with the changes. Obviously, when you introduce new measures in the workplace, sometimes you'll find that there's resistance. But with time and with good leadership, you find that it is easier for employees to comply. Coming into also the COVID-19 pandemic has also introduced us into a new way of working, what we call working from home, which was not so popular before, but going forward into the future, we see that it's going to be quite the normal way of working, the new normal. But obviously that brings with it a whole host of health and safety challenges for us as employers. How do we manage an employee, make sure they are working in an occupationally health and safe environment in their home? So that also brings us to make sure that we have to try and find adequate information about the setting where the employee, we have to go visit their homes to do an economic assessment, because you'll find most of the time they are working on couches. They will have musculoskeletal disorders. So if an employee is injured at home, how do you handle all that? So there's a whole lot of new occupational health and safety challenges that COVID-19 has brought to the fore. But obviously, as Business Eswatini, with the help of the International Labour Organization, our constituents, our members were assisted in developing an employer's guide of working from home. So that employer's guide is available to any other interested parties who want to make sure that they can regulate issues of working from home. They are also, in terms of now focusing on Business Eswatini itself, there's been actively mobilizing through COVID-19, through the business community. Just quickly, before I wrap up, to show that Business Eswatini has made available the creation of posters and pamphlets which were distributed and circulated countrywide. There were also Business Eswatini made donations in excess of 36.6 million that was channeled towards the purchase of PPE for healthcare workers, equipment for COVID-19 health centers, water tanks for public places, sanitizers donated to BE members, and some government agencies and ministries. So, ladies and gentlemen, this would have not been possible. I think you have seen the contribution that BE has done through the various donations. This would not have been possible without the assistance of our members, such as the Nati Cash Foundation, SWACI, Southern Star, Premier Foods, Conco, and to mention but a few. And note that if I haven't mentioned the stakeholder, they are not important. On conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, on this special occasion, Business Eswatini reiterates employers' strong commitment to play their part in securing a safe and healthy working environment. Business Eswatini also encourages government and other social partners to do their part to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 in the world of work. We will continue to collaborate with government to shape policy measures that are conducive for business resilience and sustainability, and observe guidance and advice from public authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, with those remarks, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mdluli, for your insights shared with the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, we are left with one panelist to make submissions, representative from the University of Eswatini, who is going to share insights from an academia perspective. And I think this is necessary because if you listen to most of the submissions, if we try and simplify what investment means, it may sound like we are saying there's money needed to make possible some of the policies or some of the changes that needs to be implemented. But an investment can also be in the form of knowledge, can be in the form of preparedness, psychologically and otherwise. The University of Eswatini will help share those insights with regards to how we can position ourselves, how we can invest in resources that do not require us to put funding directly. I know that knowledge in itself is a cost, but we need to prepare ourselves, we need to train our staff where necessary, collaborate as well. And one of the issues being raised by Mr. Mdluli is the issue of how do we communicate. When I was looking at the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 2001, it emphasizes the importance of the employer and the employees committee to meet and to discuss issues that can be possible threats within the work environment. And one of the things that are being cited by the OSH profile in the country is the lack of reporting and the work of working together between the employer and the employees regarding issues of occupational health and safety. And it is unfortunate that this has happened at a time when it was prevailing at the time, and then COVID-19 came and it found us, our attitude was like that. And we didn't know what to do because we were not used to the culture of meeting between employer and employees to discuss issues that are possible threats between in the work environment. So I think now the importance of communicating is very necessary in the workplace. The University of Eswatini is ready to make submissions with regards to a perspective from the academia. Thank you. Do we have, oh yes, Mr. Mamba, sorry, thank you, come forward, sir. There are some shy Tanle.
The Honorable Minister, the Portfolio Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to deliver my presentation in English. I'm just going to talk in Siswati so that we're all at par. When I got in here, the PS was talking in Siswati and I was saying, yes, this is Swaziland. So, and then the others then changed to English. Then I said, oh, so I've been cautioned about time, so I'll try to give you a brief on what we have, and some of the previous speakers have already touched on what I'll be presenting on. University of Swaziland, ngebantu abakethu iqale nga 2002 kuthatha ema-specialist lenda i-occupational health and safety, and bebathatha students lababuya eBotswana, lababuya eLesotho nala kaNgwane. So kwase kuyaqala ke ukuthi sibe nebantu labaqualifyela ukuthi sithi ngema-safety officers. There are other things that we have observed along the way sisaqhubeka since 2002 kuze kube manje as the university. Kukhulunywa ngemthetho lapha Occupational Safety and Health Act ya 2001. We have a serious challenge ngalo mthetho lo since 2001. I-act nje lenganama regulations. If you go to the sugar belt, so if you try to enforce lo mthetho lo, awukhoni ku-enforceka because kude ama-regulations awo. Ema-regulations lo khanza asenyetiswa nje kule sugar belt, Big Bend, Simunye and Muhlume. They end up importing umthetho wase South Africa kusilose utosebenza la kangwane. So nathi ke nasifundisa abantwana ngemithetho occupational safety and the law. Solo sine discrepancy ngalapho. Ngilesi observile leyo. Lokunye ema students bayawenda ema research as the university is supposed to carry out ema research, but as comparison kuma standards ukuthi ngifuna kubona I dust pollution, air pollution, where are the standards that we're going to use ukuthi sithi iSwaziland ayisikahle la, iSwaziland ikahle la, akukho lokho. Lokunye lesikubonile as iacademia ukuthi na uyethi inkampaneni ngiyabona ngibabe sigwane yini uyakhanza ukuthi kune party lethi kuna safety officer, asengikhulume na safety officer, akude safety officer la sithethe one of the workers sasisimnika libhanje lekuthi ngu safety officer, kumalula kugcoka lokhu kodwa ikhona into lwati kulomuntu losamnike lokuthi akagcoke lokhu kubi lokho. Different standards, okay, la university from first year, second year and third year ukhanza kusinika abantwana basic and foundational science courses kuthi asinoma saqhubeka akhone kungena kahle la ensimini yaka OSH, bese sika 4th year naka 5th year sesisike specializer, so specializer ka occupational safety and health. Nasikhuluma nje ngetifundo letikhona ka 4th year umfana tawudenda leti related to OSH tingu 11, ka 5th year tingu 10. So uphuma lo mntwana safunzisekile ukuthi nasikhuluma ngeOccupational Safety and Health Act yini aphumele ngaphandle ke bese uthi uyafika enkampaneni kuthi no, we've got our own safety officer. Long as he trained in anything, nangabe umtrainile umise South Africa for 2 weeks, wase so uyabuya so uthi ngi-safety officer, nguye invele safety officer loyo na. Kule advent ye COVID, what is the role of the academia? We've tried to sensitize ema students ethu ngayo nangekuthi abayele kuma businesses bokhuluma kuma businesses ngekuthi yini COVID, ivikela kanjani COVID, and we do our placement le kuma businesses. The challenge that we've had now ukuthi sekufunzelwa ekhaya, nasekufunzelwa ekhaya ke le skill nang safety officer sotasithathaphi sekubona ama hazards neku analyze ama hazards in the workplace. So bosoma business ke babe sibayala kukahle ke sinawo ema organizations lamabili ema businesses nyalo nje lokusifuna sibantwana baye kwenta ama attachments kude lovumako lemkhatsinsini wethu si producer I safety officer lenjani ke. Lokunye I business sector besicela lokuthi as a university let it come closer to us. If you've got a problem that you want identified and researched on, you can approach the university ukuthi nginana I problem na ngifuna ning researchele yona, and this is the money that I'm going to put into this program. The university can do it. Sinaye swedile ndasi esiPhofaneni, they've done ema researches zabo ngema students ethu bathi okay nayo imali sinayo sicela ama students langaka lata sendela na research, and we do it gladly. So I-perspective ye university ke injalo ukuthi let us come together, let us try to work together ku advance spirit se OSH ngaphandle kokugcoka bomakalabha asibuke ukuthi labantu lesinabo laphansi banako yini lokulesifuna ukuthi babe nako. And thank you for inviting the university to come and address you on this matter.
Siyabonga kakhulu ba sa University of Eswatini angingaboneli bakhuluma ngeSiswati la lwasekhaya lo. I think the reason why we resorted to conducting the entire session in English is for the purpose of our YouTube audience. We are trying to show even the international community what Eswatini is doing. So we were hoping they could follow the proceedings regarding what Eswatini is doing on this particular day. So we just want to make that clear, not because Siswati is not an important language or English is a superior language to our native language. It was for the purpose of making sure that we reach a diverse audience. Siyabonga kakhulu. Kune Federation of Eswatini Trade Union, popular known as Tukoswa. Ukhona babe mashumi simelane la uta ukhulumela. This is the voice of disebendi kakhulu. They have a voice, they've been affected. We've heard the fact that most of the time when the employer, being profit-driven, tries to recoup time lost, will make the employee to invest a lot of time in the workplace. But that is counterproductive. But what else can we do as employers to make sure that we recover that? Babe Mashumi Shongwe is here to make sure we get the perspective from the employees, in particular from a government's perspective, because most of the employees that are being represented here is just a federation of all the union in the country. We are going to be crossing over to Eswatini TV at 1 o'clock. The Minister of, Honorable Minister, I do know that I am breaking protocol by just announcing this on stage. We've got a live broadcast of the news at Eswatini TV. We are hoping to engage the Honorable Minister live in studio at Eswatini TV so that the entire Eswatini can have the same remarks that you shared with them here. So we are going to be cutting this presentation at 10 to 1, but nevertheless, the auditorium's presentations are going to be continuing, and then at 1 o'clock we shall mic the Honorable Minister to cross over to Mbabane just to speak to all Emaswati. Babe Simelane, please come forward, sir. Babe Shongwe, ngiyaxolisa kakhulu Shongwe.
Honorable Minister, Portfolio Committee, Minister of Labour and Social Security, PS, all protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. Ndawucela kuqondisa kancane nje Program Director Amashumi Shongwe, representing Feswatu, not Tukoswa, but I've got my colleague Babe Mamba representing Tukoswa. But because he has called me by surname, decided it was supposed to be Babe Mamba, according to the program. Minister Nendlionge, as C70, I'm disciplined. Lo 5 minutes ngimbonela apha ngidawuzama ukuthi within it ngento lokufana ngoba ngaphazama labaqhashi bashaya njalo le 17. So sekula ngatini lokuthi nakuthiwa 5 ngi5. Minister sibonga lelithuba sithi 70 ukuthi besingeda kulombuthano si celebrate lelanga lamuhla. It is very important for us and it means a lot to us as workers. But Minister, I'll just go through what is written up here. We appreciate the effort by our Eswatini government through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security for striving to meet the good standards of health and safety at workplaces. We thank the social partners, our employers in everything they have done to meet the standard of health and safety by providing the required knowledge and resources that add value on the issues of preventing accidents and other related health hazards in workplaces. We take note of COVID-19 pandemic as workers, and as workers we regard it as part of health and safety issues at workplaces. We appreciate all effort done by the government of Eswatini in coming up with regulations on how social partners shall engage each other in dealing with issues affecting work and progress at workplaces. We also appreciate employers for complying with COVID-19 regulations and providing health and safety resources at all strategical points at workplaces. We encourage social partners to keep doing better and better in coming up with clear plans or systems on how we can engage at workplaces in coming up with various ways of reducing accidents and other hazardous factors that may cripple or affect the good health of all workers. We appreciate some already existing systems at workplaces that intend to reduce accidents and different incidents at workplaces. We encourage the formation of occupational health and safety committees at company level that involve the unions or workers' representatives to deal with issues of safety. The voice of workers is very important in dealing with safety. We appreciate morning talks or any briefing of reminder just before start of work for assessment of mental preparedness for workers in order to be alert and safe throughout the day while at work. This type of planning has produced good results in reducing fatal accidents at workplaces. In the past years in the country, we have not experienced quite a number of fatal accidents, but we have observed a few numbers of accidents which we praise workers and employers in working hard to deal with accidents at workplaces. Things to observe, Honorable Minister. We are concerned about the non-ratification of ILO Conventions 189 and 155 as a country. We encourage government and social partners to continue engaging, have these conventions ratified so that we know we are in good order with ILO and we benefit from these conventions. We appreciate the work done by our OSH response, which is comprised of the tripartite structure through SHAC. We have seen the good work done by this committee, Honorable Minister. Minister, we are looking forward to the regulations implementation as recommended by this committee and looking forward to the amendment of OSH Act that needs to be aligned with other regulations that exist and within the LEPA. We again wish to see a legislation that will force compliance to all employers with clear sanctions or action that each failing employer can face in order for all to take issues of OSH very seriously, Honorable Minister. Lastly, we encourage the ministry to do inspections at company level very regularly to assist partners to make working environment very conducive for issues of OSH. And we invite the ministry to intensify on the issues of investigations once an accident has occurred. And the compensation for those injured in line of duty is very important, Honorable Minister. Again, Minister, I'm touching on Convention 187 and 155. Everything that you talked about yourself, Honorable Minister, it is there in the convention. If we will rectify that, those conventions, Honorable Minister, and come up with clear regulations and policies in line with the conventions, the country will have no problem in managing the issues of health and safety at workplaces. I thank you, Honorable Minister.
The OSH profile classifies the two conventions that Babeshong has just mentioned, which is Convention 189 and 155, as the most important conventions. Ngabe athini lama conventions lawa kungasita ngani sibanjwe insilive ukhona PS ukhona minister sethemba nje ukuthi batawukhona kusipha lithuba batiphendvule. Ngicela bakathi ukhoswa ukuthi bete ngembili batowenda ema submissions zabo. Tukhoswa is the Trade Union Congress of Eswatini. We do have a representative here. Babe Mamba, please come forward.
Thank you very much, Chief. Honorable Minister, members of the Portfolio Committee, comrades, colleagues, thank you very much. As a federation, we want to take this opportunity and appreciate our invitation to this very important event. And we want to say we are celebrating this event at a time when we are faced by a global human, economic, and social crisis, and which is posing a lot of stress into the public health systems, into the food systems, and into the world of work. It is killing our people. It is causing suffering to our people. And more of our people are being pushed into extreme poverty. It has been observed that it has been noted that more and more of our people are going to be undernourished. Some enterprises have often found it hard to meet OSH requirements because they lack the resource to adapt to the threats posed by this pandemic. The pandemic is not only impacting on the quantity of jobs, but also it is impacting on the quality of the jobs. Many workplaces have been sources of the outbreaks, particularly when staff are put in closed environments and in some instances in close proximity to each other. In terms of our health impact in respect to this pandemic, the pressures and risks facing healthcare workers during this pandemic have taken a toll in their mental health. 1 in 5 healthcare workers have suffered depression, have suffered stress. And we want therefore to congratulate and salute our workers who have used their bodies as shield because they lacked any safety mechanism as they fought with this pandemic. We are talking of 7,000 healthcare workers who have died in Africa. And in Swaziland, the infection rate is at 5%. In the context of weak social protection programs, in Africa, it is expected that 29 million people will be pushed into extreme poverty. Most countries lack the fiscal space to respond due to low levels of domestic resource mobilization, volatile commodity prices, and high illicit financial outflows and capital flight. This has caused workers to resort to negative coping mechanisms such as sale of assets and predatory loans. Many of them have been forced to continue to work in unsafe conditions, thus exposing themselves and their families to additional risks. Without the means to earn an income during the lockdowns, many were unable to feed themselves and their families. For most, no income means no food. As breadwinners lose jobs, fall ill, and die, many are under threat. Most workers have lost their paid leave notice period and severance pay. Food services, retail industry, entertainment industry, transport industry, and the hospitality industry. Workers' income in those sectors have dropped by 15%. Domestic workers and secretaries in schools have gone months without income. Factory workers have not been protected in terms of screening, social distance, sanitizing, and masks. Violence and harassment has been the order of the day, while workers make demands for PPE and safety measures. We want to recommend a strong, resilient occupational safety and health environment that we consider it to be more vital for crisis recovery and prevention. We call on the government to enforce anti-hoarding and exaggeration of prices, in particular on food and other essential goods. We must scale up measures to protect livelihood, including through loans, guarantees, and tax breaks for businesses to self-employment and enterprises. We must increase medical personnel capacity for them to be able to deal with the pandemic. We must improve on testing capacities, access to medical supplies, and participation in vaccine treatment and research. Support mechanisms that may include food relief initiatives, what some call it food banks, and school meals, and support for employment retention and recovery. Saving lives should include extending social protection towards universal health coverage, income support, unemployment insurance, and we call upon that we re-engage the debate on minimum wage. Better national occupational safety and health policies, regulatory frameworks that are integrated into crisis response plans should include even environmental cleanups, well-ventilated spaces, disinfection of surfaces. We call upon support for labor-intensive sectors, workers and households facing job losses and income. Legal provisions for workers who have contracted the virus through occupational exposure to receive compensation. It is the right of workers to be provided with PPE by employers. And we want to say, Chairperson, as a federation, we are more than willing to partner with the government and employers as we all seek to address this phenomenon and the challenges that are facing us as a nation and the challenges that are facing us as workers in the field of work. Thank you very much.
Siyabonga kakhulu Bheki Mamba, siyabonga Ntulini submission yakho. entities like Fanana Nabotukoswa, you will even sense the tone because they represent the voice of the membership, which is the sentiments that are being shared. This is how we are affected, and probably which is why even the submission was not rushed. The fortunate thing, according to my perspective, is that the submissions are being made against a backdrop of a very powerful theme. Anticipate, prepare, respond to crisis. We will all remember that when COVID-19 hit the world and Eswatini, there was no strategy, there was no response plan, there was no issues of preparedness. But now we are talking at a time when we are saying, if COVID-19 were to come in December 2022, our anticipation and our response and our preparedness will be much, much better. But this is not for me to articulate because I know we have the stakeholders. And the call